Any public comment today on items not on the agenda? Juanita, how old is that mountain goat on the wall there?
I don't know.
It's okay.
Like, I think it's been here about 5 years, but
Okay.
I don't know how old it was. I will ask.
No problem. Gotta have a little bit of trivia involved in these meetings. So, okay, our first item we'll get cracking with here. John Stegmeyer, we have a trail stewardship program application.
Good morning, everyone. I'm excited to say that the state of Montana, after a lot of discussion and several legislative sessions, have come up with a small funding program for trail maintenance. And this is a pretty big deal. It's a state program versus a federal program, so hopefully money should be a little bit easier to access. And the name of that program is the Montana Trail Stewardship Grant Program. We definitely, we have a large trail system of shared use paths, and we certainly wanted to make sure we got at least one project in the door. Hopefully that we're competitive and we win the funding, but also that we get to experience how the review works so we know for future years. So we have developed a small project on a couple of trails in Target Range on South Avenue and along Clements, where tree roots alongside of these paths have over time dug down beneath the surface and kind of put heaves and bulges into the asphalt. And so that's what this project would work on if we get funded. If we don't get funded, we still need to figure out a way to address it, but that's what I have in store for this application. We'll look for $21,600 of grant funds, and we will match that with some of our own program funds for trail maintenance at $2,400.
Great. That's a pretty good deal for a couple $1,000 if we can get the balance of it.
Absolutely. I
Yeah,
would.
this is Josh's neighborhood, right?
It is. Yes, we need to do this right away.
This is in the vicinity of the Slotnick Memorial Parkway, is it not?
It is. Yes. Yeah. It is. Exactly. Yeah. I'm gonna move. We approve this application. It's a great thing for small money. Let's do it.
Second.
Any further discussion on this? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Okay, Elena Evans, who is with us today, will share some information about a PSA with DJNA regarding Singletree Lane.
And that's actually been moved, I believe, to February 4th meeting, given approvals.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
we're going to postpone this item to the 4th.
Well,
okay.
Easy enough.
We can, we'll roll with it. There we go. Well, thanks, Elena, for that update. We'll see you again on February 4th. All right, Billy, you've got a whole bunch of items for us today related to the fairgrounds.
Yes, we do. Thanks for looking at these. We are having some contract changes due to cancellation in 2020 due to COVID. And so this will kind of bring things all into alignment. We are with the Sankey Rodeo Agreement, which I think is the first menu item that you see. It would allow us to take the contract to 2023, allowing us to align all our contracts to 2023. And also it separates out and clearly defines the roles that we'd like for the stock contractor to do and for us to do, so that we can have more control to involve more community engagement in part of the performance. Because we're here, we can do that. And so it reduces the contract from the initial $74,000 down to the $58,800 by us making some of those talent choices outside and contracting those on our own. And we have a lot of new ideas for the rodeo, and I just didn't know how much really to go into now, or is it just more budget, or?
Well, a little bit of both. We have time. Any questions about this? And depending on how, Josh and Juanita, how controversial you think these items are, we could just have Billy run through them all and take them in one fell swoop if you want.
I think that's a great idea.
Okay.
Also,
Okay.
unless there's someone on the line who has stickier details or more knowledge.
Yeah, and folks are welcome to chime in at any point here if you have comments on these items. Okay, go ahead, Billy.
All right. So with that, we want to extend courtesy to the carnival operator who we had to ask to hold off last year to come back this year. It's only for the 1 year because we would like to, we already have a bid out to extend for, or to ask for new carnival interest for the 2022 and 2023 years to give that contract alignment to 2023. So this agreement that we have before you today is to just allow them to come this year. And then we will start the whole new carnival selection process in February for those following years. Same with Western Montana Motorsports, which many of you probably know is Ryan Montgomery's Montgomery Distillery is putting on flat track motorcycle racing, restoring it from the 1920s back to the fairgrounds. And again, we had to cancel last year, so we just needed the formal okay from you folks to let us to go 1 more year and give him that 1 year. We'll see how it goes, and then we might renew it from there on out. It does include stunts and everything, so but that's all been the same agreement, just extended 1 year. And we also had, before COVID, we had signed with a comedian, magician, and he also does caricatures, and he was really wonderful working with us right up to the moment that we decided, you know, we're just not going to have public, and he is really liked by our board, so they really do want to go ahead and offer him the 1 year contract, and it's for the $5,000. Then separating out from the rodeo contract, some of the committee hires we're looking for is to bring in our own music director and our own announcers. And so Ashley Mooney is the music director we selected. And then Roger Mooney is the announcer. And he's really key for us to bring in that community engagement that we're looking for with the performances going forward. So that's everything regarding the fair. The last thing I have is just some housekeeping. We have some records disposal to take care of, and that's at RM 60. We have new construction going on in the inside of the fair office, new money room being built for the fair, which is basically just giving us 4 walls. And so we had to clean out a lot of records, and we'd like to just have your okay to send those out.
Billy, on that point, and that's really the only one I have questions about. I don't recall anything like this ever coming before the full board. Typically, records disposal schedules and whatnot are signed by the chair, but is there something special in this case? And maybe someone else on the line here might know the answer to this.
It could be my mistake. I think Kevin had told me I had to get it signed by you and Emily. Does anybody else know?
Jason, do you have some insight?
I do. Yeah, it's generally just signed by the chair, and we actually have a process through the Record Center for records disposal. Keith Belcher generally handles all that. There's a form and everything, so it probably would behoove us just to have Billy work with Keith, and he can help funnel that. It's pretty efficient. And
yeah, he gave me this form and it said that, but I'm not seeing where the board actually signs it. He told me it needed to be signed by the board.
And usually, like Jason said, usually it's just the chair.
Okay,
Annie,
fantastic.
What are your thoughts? Should we pull this item and just run it through our normal channel?
Yeah, I think we could just postpone it or just pull it, cancel it. And then Billy, what usually happens with those is, so you'll send them to me, I'll route them, have the chair sign them, and then I route them back to the Record Center for you. So I think Emily just has, Emily has to sign it, and then you send it to me. I'll get the chair's signature for you, route it back to Keith, and then we're done.
Okay, great. Yeah, I have Emily signed it. I'm sorry.
No problem at all.
No problem. All right, any questions on any of these items, knowing that we will pull item 10 and we're talking about items 3 through 9 related to the fairground and the fair?
I'm good.
I just want to know, is Andrew going to be part of that
Motorcycle race?
motorsports event?
You couldn't keep me away. I'm on it.
I don't know what Erica Grindy's gonna say to that.
Okay. Yeah, that's true. Maybe not.
She's not on the line, is she? Oh, she is out there. Doggone it. Okay.
Darn.
I am, but I think it'll be on his personal time, so totally.
Free labor. We're always for that.
Any other questions, comments?
I move to approve items 3 through 10. Is that right?
3 through 9.
We're not doing 10 though, I think.
3 through 9.
Yep.
Great, I'll second that.
Okay, any further discussion on that? Or I don't know that we have any comment from the public out there, but all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thanks, Billy.
Thanks,
Thank
Billy.
you.
We look forward to maybe having a more robust fair this year and lots of vaccine flowing between now and then.
Yes.
Yes, very much.
Okay, thank you. Kyla, Sealy Lake Cemetery District Board. This is way more expeditious than I thought. We were speculating yesterday when this would come before us, and here it is.
Hi, Commissioners. So as you know, we had a vacancy with the Sealy Lake Cemetery Board. We had Colleen Dunn resign at the end of December. She was moving out of the district. We have one new applicant. Her name is Mary Stubb. So we just have her to potentially fill the vacancy for this board. And she would be filling the remainder of the vacant seat, which is through April 30th, 2022.
Well, I think yesterday our very own Commissioner Slotnick coined the phrase "cemetery professional." Was that it?
I did, yeah.
This was a fantastic applicant, I thought.
Yeah, best.
Yeah.
We couldn't have dreamed one up who was more qualified.
No, it was actually a really fun interview too. Learned a lot, and I'm so excited for Mary Ellen to serve.
Yeah.
Is that a motion, Juanita?
Oh, sorry. No, it's Josh's turn.
I move that Mary Stubb be appointed to the cemetery board.
Oops, we got a hand from Chris. Are we?
Oh, yeah.
You're fine with this one. I have one for after.
Oh, okay. You're okay. Very good. Juanita, was that a second?
That's a second. Yes.
Oh, okay. Any further discussion before we go to Chris's jaundiced yellow hand that was up there a second ago? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
I
got
just
a board.
need Juanita. Yeah, I just need Juanita to amend her motion. It's item 9 that was postponed. I am item 10, and I don't want to postpone mine.
Oh.
Oh.
I amend my motion as suggested.
So I would like to keep item 10 going. Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Annie, are you cool?
Yes. Yep,
So,
that's
so the motion was items 3 through 8, and we pulled item 9 and Chris's item 10.
correct.
Goodness. Okay. Yes. Thank you for catching that.
Yeah.
Okay. I
No
guess.
problem. It was going to run afoul of your public meeting this afternoon. So.
Okay. So we got ahead of ourselves there. Chris, talk about item number 10.
Sure, you bet. So, Commissioners, today you have before you a professional services agreement with a company called Tischler Bice. who is going to be helping us with our impact fee study. Today on your public meeting, you will pass a resolution to reestablish the advisory board necessary to consider impact fees. So these things go hand in hand. So we did an RFP process with the help of our fine auditor, Dave Wall, to select those companies. We got 4 responses. All were very good. I was very impressed by all of the responses, but we did have a very robust scoring process that involved quite a few of the folks around the county, and Tischler Bice rose to the top with that. It is just inside budget. You budgeted in your fiscal year 21 budget up to $75,000 for this study, and it came in just under that. And so I'm asking for you to approve and sign this professional services agreement with Tischler Bice, and then I will send that out via DocuSign for their signature. And then at your public meeting, as I mentioned, we'll consider the resolution to reestablish the necessary fee advisory board.
Great. So Chris, who would the fee advisory board be like many of our other boards?
So it is similar. So statutorily, this is required for the commission to consider impact fees. The statute actually does require certain members, so you have to have somebody from the development community on it. Used to require that you also had a CPA. That is not a requirement anymore, but it probably is something you'd want to consider as somebody with financial background to be able to look at some of the materials. But before either the city or the county or any municipality can, or subdivision of the state can consider impact fees, the Citizen Advisory Committee is a part of that development of the study, the work of the study, and then they make a recommendation to the commission.
Great, thanks.
Yeah.
Well, I'm really personally really excited about this in the name of property tax relief.
Make it happen.
Yeah. Yeah. So all right, I would gosh, which number are we on here?
Number 10.
Number 10. I'd move for number 10 that we approve the PSA with Tischler Bice.
Second.
Any further discussion among the group here today? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you. All right, I think we have now exhausted all of our, no, we have not. We have another item that's sneaking onto this 3rd page of the agenda here. So Kyla, Library Board of Trustees.
Yes, so we've had a recent resignation from the library board. Barbara Burns has resigned effective this week, leaving the remainder of her vacant term, which is which her term ends June 30th, 2024. So with most of these cases, we would like to move the alternate up to fill her regular seat. And the alternate that is in the motion today is Carol Wolf to fill the remainder of the vacant seat, June 30th through 2024.
Okay.
I've motioned to appoint Carol Wolf to fill the remainder of the vacant term.
I'll second that.
Object now or forever hold your peace. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
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 All right. Thanks,
Thank
Kyla.
you.
Okay, now we have exhausted all of our action items. Correspondence. We have a letter with a statement of commitment for long-term maintenance for inclusion with the Butler Creek Trail Association's grant application to the Recreational Trails Program for partial funding of a shared use path along Butler Creek. We discussed this, I think, during our CAPS update meeting. Is there anything else that anyone would like to add to this, which will be coming around to us via DocuSign? Okay, pretty straightforward there. Let's see, does anyone want to speak to this next item, request to send a comment letter to DEQ pertaining to nutrient standards variances?
Could we have somebody do a little explaining on this one?
Hi, this is Elena Evans, hydrogeologist, Water Quality District, and there's a lot going on with nutrient variances, both at the legislature and as a result of ongoing litigation coming from the Missouri Waterkeeper and DEQ. So this is an amendment by DEQ in order to reflect where the current legislation is regarding the nutrient variance And so in talking with Travis Ross, he said, given Missoula County's long history with the voluntary nutrient reduction program and our understanding of the need to have an ability to bridge where communities are right now in meeting more stringent nutrient standards, it would be important to send a letter of support to DEQ for this proposed rule change.
Thanks.
Okay.
There is more that is likely to change given ongoing litigation in the legislature, but it's important to provide support when we can on keeping stringent nutrient standards, but also a path forward with intermediate timelines for other communities to get to the place that's needed in order to meet those.
Thanks. That's helpful. Any other questions about that? Okay, and just for clarification, contrary to what David Wall thought, that is not a Yeti on the wall behind Juanita. It's actually a 9-year-old billy goat. So.
Oh, I see it now. Okay, that was my bad.
It happens, Mr. Wall. Understandably.
Okay. Real quick, back to Elena. Like, what do we expect, like, from this letter? Or, I mean, what sort of activity will be generated, I guess?
So we'll send this letter to DEQ. There's a hearing on the 8th where this will be discussed by DEQ. There are 30 communities underneath this current piece of the lawsuit that's going forward. And so essentially we're just putting a pin in the conversation where we stand, which is that a lot of the lawsuits are basically that we're not going far enough in enforcing the environmental standards. And on the other side of things is the legislature maybe pushing back against having stringent nutrient standards. And so essentially what Missoula County is saying with this letter is that in light of all of this, we have found that the work that we did under the voluntary nutrient reduction program and having really clearly defined and delineated like high nutrient standards, but also a way that understands that there are economic hurdles to get to that place, that we support DEQ in building that bridge to get there.
That's
I can.
I'm
that's
happy to some impressive threading. Nice job.
Yeah, that was good threading.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks. Any other questions?
I'm happy to send any more documentation or anything that you would like. There will be ongoing changes, and Travis and I will continue to update you on said changes.
Great.
Good. Thank you. All right, moving into our discussion items, credit card transaction fees. Who would like to kick this off?
Is Andrew available?
Yep, I'll go ahead and give it a shot. Let me see if I can share something up here on my screen. You're seeing this?
Not yet.
No?
Yep, it's there.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, we've been the credit card fees are generally paid by the credit card user, and that's a policy that I implemented some 10 years ago. And at that point in time, Missoula County had been spending approximately $660,000 a year to allow people to use their credit cards here. So we went ahead and changed the program and established a program where credit card users would have to pay their own fees. And these are the numbers since January 2020 through June 2020. We began picking up the reimbursement due to, or the credit card fees due to COVID in late April, early May, and we're still waiting for the reimbursement amount of $307,000, 307,556. I'm suggesting that we go ahead and discontinue the fee reimbursement as of February 1. As you can see, with 307, I fully anticipate if we go into this next year and do through June, we'll be well over $300,000 again. It's a significant amount of money. We're not a retailer, so we can't bury it in the cost of goods like most retailers do with credit card fees. So that's the issue. I'm suggesting we discontinue the program and go back to the way we were doing it.
Thanks, Andrew. Questions, Juanita, Josh?
Andrew, could you describe for anybody who's listening in, what's the sort of thing people might be paying for that they use their credit card to make that payment?
The biggest one is taxes, is property taxes. And you know, the clerk of court has some things that they provided the public that use credit cards for, and some items at animal control.
Okay.
Gosh, yeah.
So this,
if people just write a check, then,
people could also still use their credit cards. They just cover the cost of the fees. And what are the fees? What percentage?
You know, they really vary from one card to another. Okay. So what we've done with Montana Interactive is that they say, well, they charge $9.95, and then we get 1.99% back on the credit card fees, and that kind of is a mesh of all the different rates, and so we are kept whole that way. The electronic check is still available to people online, and it used to be just $1. You've waived that $1, so people can use electronic checks online and still get the same, you know, social distancing that we're trying to accomplish with the credit card fees.
So Andrew, let's say if somebody on an average, if somebody was paying $1,000 bill on their property taxes, what would the credit card cost be for them? You just take a ballpark guess.
I don't know. Michelle, can you help me out here? I think it's like
on $1,000.
Yeah.
Just a minute here. Let me see if I can figure that out.
Thanks. Sorry to throw you a curveball. I'm just trying to wrap my head around what's the effect of this going to be on people.
Jason Emery, you had a comment.
I was just thinking, aren't credit card fees generally around 3%? That Visa and those skim as part of the service that they provide.
They vary. They can go all the way up to 8% with American Express, and then they have some very low cost ones. It's all over the board. It's unbelievable how many different schedules there are for credit card fees.
And Andrew, is it accurate to say that most people are not paying their property taxes with a check or a credit card or an electronic check, but rather their property taxes are covered in escrow as part of their mortgage payments?
Yeah, I think that's correct. That would be a correct statement. The credit card program, you know, if you can see a dramatic increase in when we let folks use their credit cards, and you know, many people don't have all the money that they need to pay their taxes with, so they do it on credit. But yeah, it would jump up significantly, and again, it's money that, you know, other taxpayers are subsidizing by paying their taxes in cash, and then these folks are going to.
So if we did this till you're saying do it till February?
Yeah.
End of January.
Yeah.
And then I was wondering when do you think we might see something? Could we put a pause on this for a month or 2 months and then wait and see what the next round of coronavirus relief looks like from the federal government?
We could do that. We would run the risk of, having to pay those fees ourselves.
So, Andrew, are you talking a cash flow situation? So for instance, are we confident that we're going to get that reimbursement of $307,000?
We were given some assurances, we were given pre-approvals, but we have not seen one dime of it yet. So that's a concern, and of course with the new administration and new budget director, we don't have that end that we once had with the state budget director.
Well, and what you're saying, Josh, though, is that we resume charging credit card fees until such a time as we can get some assurance that any additional relief package would actually allow us to be reimbursed and made whole.
Dave, you said that better than I did. Thank you. That's what I'm after.
Help me understand this, Andrew, while Michelle is still wrangling a calculator in the background there somewhere. So maybe you said this already. So the figures at the top of the spreadsheet, the January through June, is that what would have, what's that 149,000? Because I thought I heard you say that you'd anticipate January through June of this year being 300,000.
Yeah, it's a mix. Essentially through here, about $70,000. Those were paid by credit card users. We established the program where we would go ahead and pay their fees in May. So these 2 months were paid by the county in addition to the rest of the year, and that amounted to the $307,000.
Okay, what was though the 300? Maybe it was just this that we're looking at here. I thought that you had projected out what it would be in terms of credit card fees for the balance of this fiscal year. Did you say that would be 300,000 or?
Yeah, yes, this is what since we started the program in May, this is the total that we've received, or that we're anticipating to receive back. That's what the county has paid out for credit card fees.
Okay. Maybe I'm still a little slow on the uptake, but if we were to continue to cover credit card fees and not be reimbursed now through the end of this fiscal year, basically now January through June, would that probably be similar to January through June last year, about 150,000?
I would anticipate it to be higher, Dave,
okay,
because we get a good deal more credit card usage when we're paying the fees.
Okay. Well, I mean, it makes sense for me to, I guess, suspend our current approach until such a time as we have some sense of where the new administration's relief packages might fall.
And like I say, they can still do it online with an electronic check and maintain that social distancing that we're trying to assist them with when we suspended the credit card fees. But
and it's important to note, we're not saying no more credit cards. It's just a person's going to cover their own fees.
That's correct.
And I saw there's this, it's a NACO thing, not a MACO thing, a NACO thing this afternoon about what Biden's proposed
right
package would be. maybe it's worth, if you have a moment to sit in on some of that. I don't know if it's worth it for you or not, but maybe some of the discussion might be there. And it's a shame. It's a shame to have to get rid of this, given the cost. It's really of value to people, and we're in an economic crisis. And hopefully, we're only putting a pause on this for a month or so.
Yeah, I've signed up and I'm registered for that discussion this afternoon, so I'll participate in that.
Great, and maybe that'll inform our decision from what you learned.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know, if they speak directly to credit card fees or not, but we'll certainly get a sense of what they're going to dedicate to the different aspects of fighting the pandemic.
I wonder if our communications shop could help get the word out that you can still make payments electronically even without using a credit card, because I wonder if some folks just aren't aware of that, and they default to the position that the only way that I can make this transaction electronically is by using my credit card.
Yeah, I think that would be a great idea, and assist us in transitioning the program, and then also informing them that we're picking up the $1 fee that's normally associated with the electronic check.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody's using their credit card to pay their property taxes, it's a big chunk of change. It's a big enough chunk of change that they may not have that money in their checking account at the moment, which is, the credit card does more than provide social distancing convenience. It provides the ability to pay for something where you don't really have all the money, and we want to make sure people still have that opportunity and they're not crushed by their taxes.
That's true. That's a good point.
I was able to find and calculate the fee based upon a $1,000 credit card transaction. It's just about $27.
Okay.
Thanks, Michelle.
So thank you. It's not gonna completely undo someone.
I would think not. If you're putting $1,000 on your credit card, 27 more does not seem like it would be the tipping point.
Yeah.
And again, Andrew, what were you saying? I guess looking into your crystal ball, are we getting any communication on when we would get that $307,000 reimbursement? Is that we just have to wait?
We're waiting for the final and fifth submission, and that's hard telling when the state's going to get through auditing that. They've been in constant communication with Michelle,
Thanks, and thanks, Michelle, for all your hard work on all of this.
Yeah, it really helps.
Yeah.
Well, it seems we have a decision. We're going to pause until we hear that there's more relief on the way, and then maybe we could restart this program.
Yeah. I think.
Yep.
Great. Thanks, Andrew.
Thanks, Michelle.
Does anyone else have anything to add on this particular item? Okay, legislative session.
Who's
that?
No, I was just wondering, is Tyler or anyone on? I can't see who's on, but never mind. On to the legislative session.
Chris?
Sure, I did reach out to Tyler. He was not able to join, sorry. Just to answer that quick question, Juanita. We actually don't have any new legislative update since Tuesday. The last couple of days have been very slow on new bills being introduced. We did have just a quick update. Several of the health bills have been heard. These are pretty significant changes to local health authorities, and so we've weighed in on those on your behalf. And then we have headed to the floor today, in this last week, HB 104, which is the bill on county leasing authority, passed 97.3 and then 99.1. So it is on to the Senate for our land lease bill. So
nice.
That's great news. Well, so Chris, could you speak for a moment on some of those health bills and asking you to look into a crystal ball of those, which do you think is the most likely to pass, and what are the real issues that are going to change in terms of the role of a health director and accountability, and how electeds would be affected?
Sure. So there are, to say that there are a few bills would be to understate. There are at least 6 currently going on. some of which have had their hearings, some of which are still scheduled and have not yet had their hearings. So it's hard to know exactly. The state associations, so Health Officers Association, Montana Association of Counties, Montana Leagues of Cities and Towns, is kind of backing the bill out of Ravalli County. And so the bill out of Ravalli County, I'm going to call the least bad bill. That's just for an easy term for me. And so that is the bill that would allow health officers and health boards to continue their current authority to issue emergency orders, but those orders would have to be reviewed by either a date certain or at any request of the Board of County Commissioners or a city council if it's involving an incorporated area. And so those kind of make sense because if you think about it, the health department really does a huge breadth of services. And so the example that we always use is if, a restaurant or a bar has sewage backing up into it, on a Friday night, you don't want to have to wait until the following Tuesday to be able to issue a health order and get them to have to remediate that. You need to be able to issue it kind of immediately. And so that immediate authority is kind of key. I think that's really important for maintaining. I think in general, while one of the disconnects at the legislature is that most, with the exception of 7 of them, most boards, health boards across the state are actually county health boards, which means all 3 county commissioners and 2 other citizens serve on them by law. That's how they're set up. In statute, if you're a county-only health board or if you're a city-only health board, a majority of your council or commission sit on the board. And so really most of these changes, these things could be happening because in essence, you've had those voting patterns already happen for those. So this will really only have an impact to city county health boards. But in this case, I think that's the most reasonable approach. Really, that way you get that direct elected review. So that's kind of what's being referred to as the least bad bill. It has the least problematic things in it. Most of the other bills, sorry, go ahead, Josh.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. What's the number on that one?
I'm going to ask one of our crack legislative team to look that up behind me because I don't remember. I just know it's coming out of it's Representative Beatty out of Flathead, or not out of Flathead, out of Ravalli County. And I apologize. It's maybe 121, HB 121, but I'm hoping Ann or Allison or Emmy or Sarah are quickly looking that up for us.
And Chris, are these 6 competing bills or as opposed to hypothetically, if all 6 passed, would they complement one another or how would that work?
It would be a cluster.
It would be a cluster. So they would all end up in conference committee eventually because they all seek to change the same sections of law. Okay. So they do not complement each other. It's been a very interesting session. Just as a look back, one of the things Missoula County and health officers supported was removing the criminal penalty for law enforcement who don't enforce a health order, because law enforcement is not used to enforce health orders anyway and hasn't been for a really long time. There were 4 bills to do that exact same thing introduced. With exactly the same language, but 2 House bills and 2 Senate bills. And I don't really know why, but that's much what we're seeing in the health department. It's like each legislator decided they'd draft their own. There was no discussion in advance. And so there's just this like flood of bills that all seek to change the same section of statute. And I saw Ann unmuted, so I bet she has the bill number.
HB 121.
It is 121. Every now and then the memory works.
So. Chris, do you think that in some committee, these bills will be kind of smushed together and something new will emerge, or do you imagine one of them will just be the one that wins the race?
Yeah, so almost all of them are in front of House Judiciary, which is an interesting place for them to be, but that's where they are. I think the hope is that 121 will be the vehicle since it's got the most support behind it, but it's unlikely for all of those bills to get out of committee. At most, I would think we'd see 2 advance. One, again, this bill, which is the least bad or just kind of seeks a middle ground where you still have emergency authority with the health board and with the health officer, but also a review process that involves elected officials, which is a good balance, right? It's a good checks and balance system. Today, there were 2 bills put forward by the same representative. One would strip the governor's authority largely to declare emergencies and disasters. Specifically, of course, it does not specify only around pandemics. It's full on all authority. And the other bill was what I will call one of the bad bills, which in essence removes all local health officer and health board authority. So emergency orders, emergency closures, inspection, for example, the example that we always use in our letter to them. If we have a wildland fire, for example, the fire that occurred in Lolo a few years ago, where we need to set up a shelter and we have to set that shelter up in Missoula, we actually need a health officer to go and inspect that shelter to make sure that it's safe for habitable human, for folks to be in, and also that we can provide food. So we need an emergency inspection for a kitchen to occur. They would not have that authority, so we would be waking up the Board of County Commissioners, to get the first order issued, the emergency. Then we'd wake up the city council and force them to go into emergency session so that we could approve the shelter and the food service, because that happens in the city. So the commissioners can't do it. It has to be the city. So, I mean, it just creates this really bad landscape in reaction to the pandemic. And not that there shouldn't be changes because of the pandemic, but it's much like a 100-year flood. And yes, there is a chance every year, right? There's a 1% chance in a 100-year flood happening every year. But it's not what we plan for, right? I mean, we plan for the more common occurrence floods, and in emergencies, we plan for the more common occurring emergencies. So to narrowly scope your laws because you're unhappy with the way the pandemic has played out, and not recognize that it's wildland fire that we deal with every year, it's flood that we deal with every year. These are the disasters we actually have to plan for and should be basing our laws on, because we need to actually, respond to those, and that kind of emergency nature is, unfortunately, in my opinion, short-sighted, in their opinion, well worth changing. So,
well, Chris, little did you know that 24/7 we are poised to pounce on any potential need for inspections, whatever. We're ready to go.
I would say, and I appreciate that. And in my role, when I was in Adrian Beck role, on more than one occasion, I woke commissioners up in the middle of the night and had to ask them to do things. But gosh, it sure seems like. It sure seems like issuing an emergency order for folks to be able to go into a shelter because of a wildland fire is probably something we ought to be able to accomplish without that.
Chris, kind of restated, it sounds like 121 wouldn't really be a major change to how we do business.
No, I will say it does, and as it should. There is some ambiguity in the language. If you were on the MACO call, they have their bi-weekly legislative update call that happened last Friday. There is some ambiguity in the way the statute is written currently. So the health board hires the health director in the current, but in reality, of course, the health board has no appropriation authority. And so, there's a mix there. And so it has some language to help clean those things up. And so what it does is has the health board hiring with basically the consent of the local board. So it again is the best of trying to mesh and create some balance. In what's put forward.
Unpack that a little bit for our specific situations. We have city county health department. If HB 121 passed, what would that mean for us in terms of health board or electeds hiring a health director?
Yeah, so it would mean the health board would run the process and then bring a finalist, which is similar to what we do in the county on some of our positions, to in essence the elected officials, and get their input and kind of approval, and then that person would be hired. And that kind of makes sense because again, you're the budgetary piece of that equation, right? So you have to budget and pay for that staff. They are a county employee, even though the health board is who hires them. And so it kind of makes sense that those two things, again, trying to create a check and balance, it's the least bad, kind of balance.
So in this case, it would be the three of us plus someone, I don't know if it would be the mayor or a chunk of the city council. How would that work?
I believe it's the city council, but don't quote me on that in 121, because each one of them is a little different. But I believe in 121, it would require approval from the municipality, which would be the city council and then the county commission.
Well, and one way to look at it is
Anna here. She may have something to
add. She might. I don't know if she's dived quite as far into that, Bill, which is the least bad.
Yeah. Anna, do you have anything to add? And then we probably need to move on before we run out of time here.
Bill, I'm just looking at the version 4 of the HB 121 amendments. Is that the most recent round of amendments?
I believe so, and I will say I have not looked at the most recent one. We sent our comments when it was first heard about 2 weeks ago. So.
Okay, because the way that I read it, the local governing body that now has to oversee decisions is the city council and the county commission. And what I think is really weird about that is if there's like a Sealy Lake issue, the city council has to decide what to do. And the people outside of the city, those are not their elected officials. They have nothing to do with Sealy Lake, for example, or anything outside of the city limits that are within the county. And so to say that you have to do both city and county elected approvals in a city county board like we have, it really creates a disconnect with county residents outside the city that now have to go through the city council to deal with issues relating to their properties or businesses. So that's my biggest issue with the continued failure to amend the governing body definition in a way that makes sense for us.
Oh, come on, Anna. Folks in Sealy will love the city council weighing in.
Well, and then what will the city council use to weigh in on that? Like, what will their criteria be? And I mean, how could that be anything but arbitrary and capricious if it's not their electorate? You know, they have no say. They have no jurisdiction over those folks.
And I totally hear you. In HB 121, as it is now, is the only decision where the city council and the county commissioners would jointly be involved in the hiring of health director, or would there be other decisions as well? I couldn't tell from what Chris was saying.
I believe that there would be other decisions as well, that when you're changing fees or you're adopting regulations, that would have to go before both.
It wouldn't just be the health board, it would actually go to the electeds.
Yeah, and then also I think the other thing is that if there's an emergency directive by the health board or health officer, that both the city council and the county commission would have veto power over that, even if it applies outside of the city boundaries.
That emergency could be in Sealy Lake, not countywide.
So have we submitted any comments to our delegation on this? And I'm thinking that Representative Mike Hopkins could actually be fairly receptive to the idea of maybe not wanting City of Missoula elected officials to be weighing in or making a decision on something that applies to the far reaches of Missoula County.
So we have 2 of our members on that committee. And then Rebecca has been working. She's also the representative or the lobbyist for the Health Association. She has been working on that bill, and some of the changes that Anna's talking about are part of that discussion. So,
okay, that's good. Hey, we've only got a few minutes, but and I don't want to cut this short. But Josh, wanted to make sure that we got some word in here on. I think you were going to be maybe testifying on something, or there were a couple items I think that.
I did the other day on the local option, and then I'm going to testify on double snap. Yeah.
Okay.
And
was there another bill?
The other one I asked us all about was the Montana Media Act that would extend the tax credits for film companies. And the reason why this was so important for us is that we have a pending deal with a film company for whom this law is very important. In fact, their business model rests upon the changing of this law. So hopefully we could weigh the expansion of this law. If I understand it right, if I understand it correctly, tax credits now top out at 10 million, and this law would expand them to 40, which would make space for other entities besides the TV show Yellowstone, which right now eats them all up.
Yeah, that makes sense. As we've been in the midst of this meeting, I got a message, a voicemail from Commissioner Greg Chilcott in Ravalli County.
Tax and spend Chilcott.
So I will be reaching out to him later to see if Ravalli County would be willing to join efforts with Missoula County in supporting this bill.
Great.
Sure. So it did seem like there was some filming in Ravalli County, so they appreciated the injection. Yeah.
So Josh, go ahead and get you registered on the double snap bill. It's up for here next week.
Great. And on that, can we get a letter too?
Sure.
A letter of support. And if it's, I think I sent on the little fact sheet. If we could slip some of that in, so it isn't quite a generic letter. It's a great deal that it's good for people who need high quality food and good for the folks who grow that food. So everybody wins.
Yep.
Yep.
Anything else legislative wise or COVID-19 wise?
I don't have any other updates. No, thank you.
Communications?
I don't believe we have anything today. Thanks.
Thanks, Sarah.
Well, okay, I have just a general question on communications, COVID vaccine. Basically, we're like ready to go in Missoula County. We are.
We just need more vaccine.
We just don't have.
I think that's correct. So we're getting these messages from folks like bring in the National Guard, and we don't have any vaccine to put it in.
Yeah.
That's correct. We have basically the infrastructure in place and the team's ready to go. We're just waiting on consistent supply.
I heard somebody say the other day it was stuff, space, and staff, and we have the space and the staff. We just don't have the stuff, and that's out of our control.
Exactly.
Okay, and this is well, actually, probably nationwide. Is that the same story that we're hearing? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, just so you know, for example, they've set up mass vaccination sites across the country in several large stadiums, but very few of them have been able to have any clinics for exactly the same reason. They've got the infrastructure, they've got the people. What they don't have is vaccine. I will say one good news piece of that is in the next 2 weeks, they are expecting the vaccine from Johnson & Johnson's data to be unmasked, which is where they actually compare the clinical trial data, and hopefully that will be promising, and we'll have yet another vaccine that's approved in the United States, which will be another thing that adds to the supply each time we add a vaccine to it. And of course, the Johnson & Johnson does not require ultra cold storage. It can be kept at refrigerated temperatures as well as frozen temperatures, and so it will be significantly more easy to distribute around the United States, but there'll still be that production issue that's just, that's the piece that's going to be holding us up for a while, unfortunately. But as soon as they can get it here, they are ready to go. They've done an amazing job. The comms team and the folks in the JIC have done an amazing job of getting that information out. Of course, as you saw, 2 mass vaccination clinics occurring this week, one today, one this weekend, one by the health department, one by our partners at the University of Montana, and they did a great job getting those filled up. I am going to forward to you an email that was sent to me from, I don't know, those of you who might remember Bob Reed. Dave, you might remember him from your time at the city. He was one of our police captains for a while and then came over and ran the Office of Emergency Management for 5 or 6 years. Wrote a really nice letter that he sent to me about the amazing work that Adrian is doing and her team are doing around that. He is in the age group where he is eligible for the vaccine, and said he used the call center because he struggled with the website, just his own problems with technology, as he pointed out. Super courteous folks, really helpful, got him scheduled, did a great job. Just wanted you guys to know that, so I'll forward that on to you guys.
Thank you.
That's super good.
Well, thanks everyone, and we'll probably see you, most of you or many of you, this afternoon.
Yeah, thanks a lot, everybody.
All right.
Thanks.
Bye.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.